Hi everyone. It's been a year since I traded in my Chevy Bolt EV and purchased what at the time was a newly released Equinox EV. And I'd like to take a little bit of time here to tell you about what it's been like for the past year owning this new vehicle. Let me start off by giving you some basic information about the car. This particular car is a Chevy Equinox EV, and it's a front-wheel drive version, all-electric vehicle, so it's not a hybrid or any of that other stuff. My particular car is listed as a 2RS trim level, and it was also listed as a launch edition. Basically, the dealership that I like to deal with had 10 of these on back order, and I went in to basically order one, and it turns out they had this particular car sitting there on the lot. I test drove it, I liked it, I bought it, and it turned out to be the very first one that they sold at the dealership. The full battery advertised range is about 317 miles, and that's for the front wheel version. They make an all-wheel drive version that gets something less than that. We typically use the car for our day-to-day driving, so that means short trips to the mall or whatever, and a typical day-to-day drive might be 30 to 35 miles. We put about 12,000 miles a year on the car, and that's about 1,000 miles a month, and doing all of this roundabout driving. I typically recharge at home, and I recharge the car to an 80% battery charge level. So that means that driving these short trips, I probably only need to plug it in every 2 or 3 days just to top it off and bring it back up to the 80%. Everybody always wants to know, what did I spend for electricity, especially plugging in at home, and obviously it doesn't come free, so I have to pay something. The advertised range of 317 miles is really based on an efficiency rating of about 3.12 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, the efficiency rating on these cars varies significantly with the season, the driving style, the terrain, and so on. Obviously, in the cold winter months, things are a little bit worse, and they tend to be a little bit better in the summertime. However, if you're driving at slower speeds or highway speeds, all of that factors into the efficiency rating. Our overall efficiency rating, as you can see from the little square up in the right-hand corner, has been 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour. And when you compare that to the 3.12, that means that we've basically been driving at a very efficient way. It's certainly our terrain and so on, but I tend to be a rather conservative driver, so I'm sure that has all translated into a pretty darn decent overall efficiency rating for the past year. So let's do some basic math here to come out with some numbers on just what we spent for electricity. Now bear in mind, I'm basing all of this on the variable rate of 15 cents per kilowatt hour that we pay to charge for electric here at home. Okay? Obviously, if you're out on a road trip and you plug in somewhere out in the wild and to kind of get some electricity, that all adds up. That's a whole lot more than what we pay at home. So the cheapest way to go is to charge at home. Let's do some basic math here. So that means if I put on 12,000 miles for the year, and at 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour, that means I had to buy about 2,609 kilowatt hours in order to charge my battery. So if you factor that in times the 0.15 cents per kilowatt hour, that means that I spent roughly $392 or $400, if you will, for the year on electric. Now, I actually spent a little bit more than that because I did take the car on a road trip and I had to spend some money on some charging out in the wild. But on the other hand, there are some places that offer a free charging, like such as at the grocery store or Longwood Gardens, for instance. You can plug in, and for a couple of hours you pick up a few kilowatt hours of electric there for free. So I'm going to assume it sort of balances out, and it comes out to about $400 a year or $33 or so a month. And if you factor that in by the 12,000 miles, it means we spend about 3.3 cents per mile in order to do this. The last time I checked with the gas car, we were running 10 and 12 cents per mile on that. The other common question I get from people is, just how much did you save in gas by driving 100% electric? We understand it's cheaper plugging it at home and so on, but just what were the savings? So let's do some basic math here. Let's assume a 30 miles per gallon car, and let's assume also that we're spending about $3.20 per gallon. So to go that 12,000 miles at 30 miles per gallon, that means I would have had to buy about 400 gallons of gas in order to complete all of those trips that I did over the past year. So if you factor 400 gallons times $3.20 a gallon, that means that I would have spent about $1,280 on gas. Now we know that I spent on electric about $392, so that means that I saved roughly $888 or around $900 for the year in gas. So that's what the amount of savings turned out to be. When we talk about the cost savings involved in driving an electric vehicle, there are other savings to be had, such as no oil changes or the inconvenience of getting a car oil changed, reduced brake wear because we use regen braking when we drive electric. There are places where we've gotten some courtesy charges, such as at grocery stores and so on. And there are other places where we're saving some money by driving electric. However, in my humble opinion, when it comes to driving an electric vehicle compared to an equivalent gas vehicle, the savings will not offset the difference in cost. It's definitely more expensive to buy an electric vehicle compared to an equivalent gas vehicle, and maybe that'll change in the future, but for this particular juncture in time, it's not the case. You're going to spend a little bit more for electric. So the question becomes, and people ask me this all the time, why am I bothering? And anybody who knows me knows that I'm a techie kind of guy, and I'm just plain old enamored by technology as it comes along. So I'm just in it to experience the technology and learn about it and all of that kind of thing as I go along. So there you have it. If you get a chance and you run into somebody, me or anybody else, with an electric vehicle, and you get a chance to take it for a little bit of a test drive, do so. It's a totally different experience. Thanks for visiting the channel. If you get a chance, click on that subscribe button. But in the meantime, I'll catch you on the next one.